it really does set up the meeting for it to be really quite contentious, like, as you say, that the meeting between Vladimir Zelensky and Donald Trump in the Oval Office earlier this year.
Every Tuesday, we head to the United States to find out what's happening in Washington. Alistair Dawber is the Washington correspondent of The Times and The Sunday Times, and he joins me now. Hello, Alistair.
Hi, Hugo.
Good to have you on, as always. Look, Donald Trump is going to meet the new Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney today. The meeting obviously has the potential to be awkward, given Donald Trump's stated desire to annex his northern neighbour.
Yeah, I love the people of Canada. We have a great relationship. But if they became our 51st state, it would be the greatest thing they could ever do. It would be unbelievable. It would be a cherished state. And think of how beautiful that country would be without that artificial line running right through it.
And Mark Carney didn't hold back when talking about the US president last week either.
President Trump is trying to break us so that America can own us. Shame. That will never, ever happen.
So, Alistair, what's going to happen today? Are we going to see another Oval Office bust-up, sort of Zelensky style? I guess it's kind of in both their interests to almost make that happen, isn't it?
I think so. I mean, we could have fireworks today, and who'd say that about Mark Carney, remembering him from when he was Bank of England governor a few years ago. Yeah, I mean, it's clear that they meet. Mark Carney arrives in DC at probably the worst time of Canadian-US relations that we've known in modern history. Both men have said publicly that they essentially don't like each other. And Trump spoke on the television on Sunday night here and talked about the fact that it was, quote, highly unlikely that America would take Canada by force. But again, another quote, it could happen. It really does set up the meeting for it to be really quite contentious, like, as you say, that the meeting between Vladimir Zelensky and Donald Trump in the Oval Office earlier this year. There's a lot, though, that they need to sort out. Tariffs that the Americans have imposed on Canadian imports, and then this issue that Donald Trump keeps referring to. It's not an aisle. He's mentioned how he wants Canada to join the United States to become the 51st state.
We know what Canadians think about that idea. They're very, very unkeen, and we've heard a bunch of them vociferously saying so on this station. What do Americans think? Is there any sort of flicker of embarrassment about the way that Canada's being spoken about in America, or are Americans surprisingly behind Trump on this?
I think it depends which Americans you ask. The opinion polls say that there's very little support, actual support for the annexation of Canada. But then you go into Donald Trump's support base, the MAGA crowd, and they suddenly have warmed to the idea after Donald Trump has mentioned it as a possibility. So there are those that support it. There are those that see the sort of the economic benefits of it. You have no border, you pay no tariffs. But of course, that's a Trump policy and one that he's imposed. I think there's absolutely no expectation beyond some of the most hardcore of Donald Trump supporters that this would or ever should happen.
Right. And I mean, what's the state of trade between the two countries at the moment? Presumably there is great potential to improve that if either of them wish to do so. Well, I guess if Trump wishes to do so.
Yeah, I mean, trade runs into hundreds of billions of dollars. I mean, you look at Canada, and Donald Trump has a point in the sense that Canada relies entirely on its southern neighbour for its economic prosperity. Mark Carney's conceded as much himself. We now have tariffs on certain Canadian products, on steel and aluminium, on cars. We look like we're going to get tariffs on lumber as well, which will also affect the Canadian economy. So there's definitely deals to be done here. And I think when you look at Donald Trump in the cold light of day, that's part of what his rhetoric's all about. It's about getting a different deal for America, a deal that better suits America. But he knows as well that, in order for America to import Canadian products and get them at a price that's effective, cost effective, Canada needs to be thriving as well. So I think we might see rhetoric, we might see fireworks today in the Oval Office, but behind the scenes, there'll also be a great deal of effort to try and work out the relationship, not only between the two countries, but also between the two men.
Yeah, indeed. Well, look, speaking of a better deal for America, Trump has said he wants to put a 100% tariff on foreign films. He explained the policy outside the White House yesterday.
Hollywood is being destroyed. Other nations, a lot of them, have stolen our movie industry. And I'm saying, if they're not willing to make a movie inside the United States, and we should have a tariff on movies that come in. And not only that, governments are actually giving big money. I mean, they're supporting them financially. So that's sort of a threat to our country in a sense.
Well, Alistair, whether or not tariffs are the answer, when he says the Hollywood film industry is in a mess, he kind of has a point, doesn't he?
Yeah, I mean, lots of films that you now see at the cinema aren't made in Hollywood. And one country that this policy would affect quite desperately is the UK. Britain's got a multi-billion pound film industry. Lots of leading films are made in the UK. And that obviously takes away from the American film industry, from the Hollywood film industry. And Donald Trump came into office. He appointed a number of what he described as special ambassadors to Hollywood, one being Jon Voight, the actor, who's Angelina Jolie's father. And he really has taken it upon himself to walk around Hollywood and meet lots of executives over the last few months, and has delivered a report back to Donald Trump. And I think a lot of what Jon Voight has found and recommended is now coming out in some of Donald Trump's comments.
I mean, one can understand how, like, tax breaks and various incentives, much like the ones that we have, over here, which is lured American film over here, could work. But how do you put a tariff on a film?
I guess any film being shown in US cinemas, there's an extra charge on that. I mean, as we've seen many times over the last few months, when Donald Trump announces a policy such as this one, you have to kind of work backwards and work out what exactly he's trying to say. How exactly will it be implemented? And that's caused the administration, not just on films, but also on a whole host of other industries, quite a few problems. I mean, we've spoken about the car industry at length. And parts cross the US border, the US-Canada border, the US-Mexican border, many times often before ending up actually in a vehicle. And these are the sorts of things that the administration hasn't really quite worked out yet, films being the next one.
Yeah, indeed. Look, finally, Alistair, Donald Trump told NBC that you won't seek a third term in office, a move which would have gone against the US Constitution anyway.
So many people want me to do it. Mm-hmm. I have never had requests so strong as that. But it's something that, to the best of my knowledge, you're not allowed to do. Mm-hmm. I don't know if that's constitutional that they're not allowing you to do it or anything else, but there are many people selling the 2028 hat. But this is not something I'm looking to do. I'm looking to have 4 great years and turn it over to somebody, ideally a great Republican, to carry it forward.
Alistair, it's quite something that when the US president saying he's going to obey the law and the Constitution makes global news, but I guess this is significant.
It is, because it's been talked about pretty much since the day he was inaugurated. You mentioned there about a lot of people making money from 2028 merchandise, not least Donald Trump. But yeah, I mean, it is quite remarkable that we have to have a sitting president sit there and say he isn't going to try and circumvent the Constitution and stand for a third term. The Constitution is clear. The 22nd Amendment says that someone can only be elected to that office twice. But we've had speculation in the last few weeks. Could he serve as the running mate, the vice president of someone who would then step down immediately to give Donald Trump more time in the White House? I think even Donald Trump realizes that the notion is pretty ridiculous. And that he needs to scotch this. I mean, of course, there is, again, some sort of thinking behind it. Donald Trump doesn't want to be seen as a lame duck president. And we will very soon be talking about 2028, who are the candidates, who's emerging from the administration as the leading Republican. He doesn't want the attention to be on someone else. He wants the attention for the next 4 years to be on him, his agenda, and what he's doing in the White House.
Alistair Dawber, the Times' Washington correspondent, thank you very much indeed, as always.